We're back on the set today with Tonchi Weaver, who is, in my opinion, one of the experts on Common Core in South Dakota. And Tonchi, thank you again for being here.
Thank you for calling me an expert.
Yes, well, you are, absolutely. And one thing that I've noticed is that Tonchi is the person to go to because of your deep desire to get to justice. She has children in school, grandchildren in school, I mean. She wants the best for her children, her grandchildren, and yours, which is why she's dedicated her life here. But we have put something in. We were talking about how Common Core came to South Dakota, and Governor Rounds knew about 4 things of the race to the top, and one was the data mining. He knew about the data mining that was going to be given to vendors, to the government, to whomever, that they were going to be doing on your grandchildren, on my grandchildren, and your children. Tell us about that.
Well, data has a lot of purposes, as you've noticed. You know, everybody wants you to go online and take surveys and give them your information voluntarily. Data is kind of the new coin of the realm, and it's valuable. So collecting all this data, of course, it has value to those who are collecting.
It's a commodity.
That's right. And we could say, okay, at some point you have to decide who owns that information. Do you and your children own your own personal information? And
what information are we talking about here?
Oh, it can be any of 416 data points.
Some are what?
Some are, well, they ask very intrusive questions. They can be even biometric information, blood pressure, blood type, medical history, families' religion, whether or not they have one. Do they live in a house that they own? Do they live in a house with 3 bedrooms or just 2?
How do they get this information?
Usually through surveys and questionnaires, or maybe even information that parents voluntarily give to the school. Shot records. I mean, medical and personal information is not off the table. We've noticed a lot of schools now have clinics in them. And I think there's a bit of, there's probably more information than we can get into in this segment, but there's a reason for that. There's a relationship, and it all revolves around the data and where the data goes.
Right, and the reason my data is important to me is because the more a person knows about you and your family, the more they can control you. When I say that's one reason why I can never leave my husband, because he knows everything about me.
Exactly.
So, but I want him to have that information. I don't want the government to have that type of information. Another thing that Governor Rounds knew about was this testing consortium. Can you explain?
Right.
Consortium. What's a consortium?
It's a group. It's it's a group of testers. It's a company, and the consortium is involved.
A fancy word.
It's basically a fancy word for a group that gets together and examines. They all own whatever is in the middle, but that's not a very good explanation. But there are 2 of them, and they're like a company that does testing. And there are 2 major ones. Because there's not a single one, they say this isn't federal testing.
It's against the law, isn't it, to have one company?
Right.
So they have
2, but they're both federally funded.
I see.
And they all
to skirt that law.
Exactly. And they have a stated goal of making sure that children are college and career ready. Those are kind of code words. Now, nobody's actually defined what that means, but that is what they say. It sounds good, and everybody wants their kids to be career and college ready. So
now we have the standards, and we have the testing. What's in the middle of that? The curriculum.
The information and the curriculum, yes.
So we have the standards federally mandated, the testing federally supposedly not mandated, but really is in actuality. So what's going to happen to our curriculum?
Well, the curriculum is going to reflect what material on the test, and it's going to reflect the standards, because the standards drive the curriculum, and that's an admission even made by Bill Gates on many occasions that, oh well, yeah, by writing these standards, we control the curriculum.
And I want to reiterate, these are standards that were not written by South Dakotans, even though our law insists that they are.
Yeah, our law also insists that academic tests be given. In fact, it reads, every public school district shall annually administer the same assessment to all students. And that's a topic that we may want to get into in another segment, because that's very interesting.
It actually is. And did the legislature vote on this? If we don't like this Common Core, can we go back to our legislators who voted on this?
No.
Our legislators didn't really know about Common
That's
Core.
right. That's
it
right.
was the Board of Education.
It was
wasn't
adopted the same way it was on the national level, adopted and imposed on our public schools.
Adopted by
the governor and the Department of Education, and our school districts were not given a choice.
So our school districts are not to blame, and neither are our legislature.
Or our teachers.